Hi guys! Welcome to Glitter and Omnom. I'm Annette if you're new here, and you are watching day trace of Vlogmas. So I've been trapped at work all night, scouring the internet for things to amuse myself for the next couple hours. I am pushing 7 o'clock. I am almost there, almost at home time. And within my scouring for amusement, I came across thoughtco.com. And this one article caught my eye. Yuletide Tales of Ghosts and Haunting. But I thought we'd do something a little different today, mix it up, and read some Christmas ghost stories. So before we jump on into it, why don't you guys go ahead and subscribe to my channel. If you like this video at the end, give me a nice thumbs up, and let's get into these spooky stories. The first one we have here is called Christmas Church Ghost. I never really believed in supernatural stuff, but this incident made me believe otherwise. This was about 9 years ago in Samoa. I was playing hide and seek with the other little kids from my mom's village in Satua, Western Samoa. I was quite young then, so I always followed my older cousin around. It was the middle of the night, when scary stuff tends to happen, and most of the kids were used to hiding anywhere in the dark. I wasn't used to it as I was only there for Christmas holidays. I actually live in Australia. Anyway, we all went to hide. Since we were all hiding in the graveyard, we all found our way around in the light that the church cast onto the graveyard. This already just keeps sounding creepier and creepier. We all hid in the shadows and waited for the boy. We could all hear the boy coming, so we kept quiet. The boy was pretty loud, so we watched what he was making a fuss about. He had walked into the church as he thought that his brother was hiding there. As he walked into the church, he later told us he saw a boy standing right in front of the altar. He didn't know if it was his brother because the boy's back was turned. He ran up and tapped the boy on his shoulder. As soon as he did this, the strange boy disappeared. We went home to tell his parents, and we returned with the boy's parents to find him still laying there, dead. What? The parents took the boy home, and we never played in the graveyard at night again. Well, no kidding. We later found out that the boy's brother had been at home the whole time, and what really scared us was that the boy who fainted has been ill since that night, and he still hasn't recovered to this day. Whoever it was in the church must have been pretty mad that we kids had disturbed him. You think? The next story's called The Christmas Visitor. I had an unusual visitor on Christmas Day of 2008, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't Santa Claus passing by my house in Bloomington, Indiana. The day started in a typical fashion with the opening of gifts around the Christmas tree. I served an early Christmas dinner for family and friends, and everybody departed by 5 p.m. except my sister and brother-in-law who live with me. They were sleeping in a bedroom at the end of the hall with the door open. Sounds pretty normal. I went into my bedroom with my dog Toby and shut the door securely. Toby curled up at the foot of my bed to sleep, like he always does. It was chilly, so I pulled the blankets and comforter up around my head and curled up to nap for an hour. I was just dozing off when I heard the latch on my bedroom door open. I waited several seconds for my sister or brother-in-law to walk in and ask me whatever they came to say, but there was no other sound. It was almost 7 p.m., so my bedroom was pitch black. I had left the lights on in the kitchen and in the bathroom, and there were lots of Christmas lights on in the living room, so the hallway would have been very well lit. I would be able to see whoever was at the door just by lifting my head. I pushed the blankets down and lifted my head from the pillow, but just as I would have been able to see who was in the doorway, an extremely bright light hit me right in the eyes. I shielded my eyes and yelled, "Turn out that fucking light! You're blinding me!" Well, that's dramatic. The light immediately disappeared, and I heard the bedroom door latch. My bedside light is a touch lamp, so I tapped on it and looked around the bedroom. There was no one in the bedroom except me and Toby. Toby jumped off the bed and went to the door without showing any signs of alarm. At first, I wasn't frightened because Toby is a Dutch Shepherd, well trained to be an excellent watchdog and his proven personal protection dog. Since Toby was already up, I decided to go let him out and see what sis or brother-in-law needed. When I went into the hallway, I could see both of them still in bed. I took Toby to the living room to let him outside, and there was nobody there either. So who opened my bedroom door and turned a spotlight on my face? Ordinarily, I'm not a skittish person, and strange noises or lights wouldn't alarm me. But this situation was just too eerie, and the light had made my skin crawl. Yeah? Let me add that the latch on my door is broken in such a way that the inside door handle must be jiggled for the latch to pop out and engage. It makes for a very distinctive sound that I'm used to listening for, because if it doesn't latch, the door swings open. I'm absolutely positive that the door was latched closed when I got into bed, just as I'm certain it was the door latch I heard during the incident. When I left the bedroom, the door was latched closed again. I couldn't understand how my sister or brother-in-law could have come into my room and then returned to their own bed and crawled under the covers in a few seconds it took me to reach the hallway. But I figured it had to be one of them, since Toby always barks or growls at everybody and everything that he doesn't immediately recognize. When my brother-in-law got up to get ready for work that night, I asked him what he wanted earlier in the evening when he opened my door. He looked puzzled and said, "I never got up, and I certainly never opened your door. I slept soundly the whole time I was in bed." Okay. I then asked Sis, "Did you want something earlier this evening when you opened my door?" She also looked puzzled and said, "I dozed off and on, but I never got up out of bed, and I never saw or heard anything in the hallway." She leaves their bedroom door open at all times, and she faces the hallway so she can see whoever's coming and going throughout the house. So who was my special Christmas visitor? And how did they get in and out so quickly? Like most people, the thoughts of loved ones are always close at hand during the holiday season. When I first went to lie down, I was thinking how happy I was that my small family had enjoyed a pleasant Christmas. But it would have been much better if my mother and brother had still been alive to share it with us. I would like to think that was my brother's spirit stopping by to say Merry Christmas. I still think of you too. I haven't been able to debunk this strange event or any kind of rational explanation. I'm half afraid that my heart stopped during my sleep and the light I saw was the bright light people report after near-death experiences. Leave it to me to see the stairway to heaven and ruin my chance at eternal paradise by saying, "Turn out that fucking light." Okay, I like this one. I've made a mental note that if I ever see another bright light to clean up my language, just in case. Probably good advice. So the next one, I think this one's going to be scary. Poltergeist. It started one Christmas. My parents and I lived in a small home that was around 90 years old. It was in a small town called Bluffton in northeast Indiana. The year would have been 1996. We lived there from the time I was 7 years old to the time I was 19. From the very day that we moved in, I felt that I was not alone. At night, I would lie in bed with the intense feeling that I was being watched. One year around Christmas time, I was having a friend spend the night. The heat had just shut off briefly, and she and I were sitting in the living room watching television when the temperature dropped substantially. As I rose up to turn on the heat, the Christmas tree began to shake violently. Ornaments were falling right and left, and she and I were terrified. We ran up the stairs and lay down on my bed. My white cat curled up with us, and my door was open slightly. When I gazed out into the dark hallway, I was horrified to see a tall white figure run down the hallway. I turned to my friend, and she acknowledged that she had seen the exact same thing. She never spent the night again. Well, can you blame her? Years passed, and things were uneventful. I became severely ill with a chronic illness and was frequently hospitalized. That's when things began again. After coming near death twice, I began to be able to sense things that no one else could. I once again felt that nagging sensation of being watched. I ignored it this time, and the illness went into remission. Once again, the activity, if you could call it that, stopped. When I was 18, I began to experience things like never before. Upon the death of my beloved grandfather, I had become preoccupied with death and frequently visited cemeteries. In my own personal opinion, not a very good practice. That's when I noticed an increase in activity. Well, of course, this chick's like making herself a freaking magnet. It started out with the voices. It was like a television had turned on and there was a flurry of voices coming from downstairs, or even more frightening, outside my room. My parents were always asleep when this would happen, and their room was right next to mine with a vent. So I could hear my parents sleeping next door. I would get up and check all the rooms, but there was no TV, nothing to account for the voices. I was getting more and more scared as the voices started happening every night. Then that's when I started seeing shadow figures. They varied in size, but they were always human-shaped, except for once. One night, I was walking out of my room with my cat in my arms, and she began to growl ferociously. She never does this. She's normally an extremely docile cat, and I was shocked to see her acting so. That's when I looked down the hall and saw a shadow of a large dog run down the hall quickly. We don't own a dog. We had owned one before I became ill, but were forced to give it up due to the fact that we could no longer provide it with proper care that it deserved. My cat growled and growled until the shadow disappeared. For all the other times that I saw shadow figures, they never took the form of a dog again. From that point on, the shadow figures were strictly human-shaped. Some tall, some child-sized, but they frightened me to death. I would lie in my bed at night, tortured by the fear that I was going insane because no one else was experiencing this. When I confessed my experiences to my parents, they took me to a psychiatrist who could find nothing wrong with me. I continued seeing the shadow figures up until the last few months that we lived there. As the months went on, I began feeling a dark aura spreading around the place. It was a heaviness, an uncomfortable feeling that I could never quite shake. Sometimes I would get frustrated with whatever was there. I would leave a room and I would turn off the light switch would make an audible click every time someone turned it on or off. Each time I would shut it off, the click would echo, and I would turn around and the light would be back on. Finally, I said in an annoyed voice, "Quit playing games. Could you shut off the light, please?" And sure enough, right before my eyes, the light shut off. She's lucky it listened. Another time, I was lying in my bed and I heard the audible noise of someone sitting down in my desk chair. Sure enough, when I sat up, there was a visible imprint in the center of the chair where someone had been sitting. Things would get so bad sometimes that I would be forced to sleep in my parents' bedroom like I was a child. In August 2008, we moved to a new house far away from the old house. I have not experienced anything abnormal here, and the aura is incredibly light. Perhaps it was my dabbling in the paranormal. What'd I say? What did I say? I had tried communicating with spirits, had frequented cemeteries, and tried to provoke ghosts. I think there's a big lesson to be learned here. But one night, I went back there to get some of my things, and as I was leaving, I saw a dark figure run across the yard. I drove away and never looked back. Wow. So, I hope you enjoyed this little Christmas ghost story time. If you like this video, let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Tell me in the comments. I'm gonna do a part 2 later on in the month. And we will see you in tomorrow's video.